Okay, so this afternoon, or evening, we're back with myself, Michael Schultz speaking, joined by Calvin Williams, Jeff McIntosh, that's Appalachia coming out, Joyce McIntosh, Miss Nancy Harris, Marcy Patterson, and Michael Christian. And this afternoon we are looking at several more we're back in the cemetery, actually. We're looking at those names that make up some of the latter W's in the cemetery, the new cemetery, that is. And we begin tonight looking at, we're going to do them by couples, because generally that's how it comes out anyway. We end up talking about couples. Seem to have a hard time separating people from their spouses. So they're just units. That's how everybody always looked at them. So we'll be looking at couples together, starting out with Roscoe E. Williams, who was born in 1910 and died in 1998, and his wife, Vera B. Williams, who was born in 1918 and died in 1999. Now, Calvin, I know you are somewhat related to this bunch. How did you know these two?
Family related, aunt and uncle. Kid to Marcy, Steve. Uncle Roscoe was a mechanic, good mechanic. Aunt Vera, she was a housewife. She took care of the family. Mostly I remember about Uncle Roscoe was, I don't believe he accepted Jesus till later in up the years, was he?
Yes.
But he was always jolly, friendly, always done work for me, a lot of it. Good person to be around. He went to Emerson, stayed to Emerson several years. Him and Steve both did. Aunt Vera, she kept mostly into the house. I didn't see her that much. Maybe down at Christmas home, Christmas she'd come to the family get together. But good family. Appreciate all of them. That was my daddy's brother.
Okay.
And I believe he was the oldest one, wasn't
I don't.
he? Was he older than Daddy?
I don't think so.
Oh, I mean, well, I was
When
thinking
was-
he was.
When was your dad born? I don't remember.
I can't remember. Actually, Aunt Annie was the youngest. Was she the youngest?
Yes.
Then I guess Daddy was the oldest and Roscoe's in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had a lot of good times together, family together. I didn't remember Uncle Roscoe much being in church through his latter years, maybe.
Yes.
But except the Lord does the main thing when it,
Yeah.
good family, good children. Appreciate Marcy. Steve was a mechanic too, and he worked at also at Emerson. Picked at Steve a lot. We, this guy picked at him, but he liked it. He loved it. We was always picking at him. They had a good business in the garage, but I guess they got on up in the years and they kind of wanted a little more, I guess, insurance and stuff like that. So, it was a great family, I remember, and appreciate both of them. Loved them very much. Aunt Vera always sent us out Christmas cards every year. She sent us one every year. But good to be with them. Really.
Now, Jeff, you must have known this couple.
Yes, my uncle and aunt. Uncle Roscoe could fix anything and everything. I think him and my grandfather was in competition of fixing things, and my uncle and my dad was too, because one can't fix it, the other one's going to get fixed. Aunt Vera was more of a home person, and I remember Uncle Roscoe and Ma always talking, and I remember him and Uncle Leslie all saying sis to my grandmother. And I remember after my grandfather died, I remember Uncle Roscoe bringing over this Scottish little terrier. We called him Jack. And my grandmother swore up and down she would never have a dog in the house, never had a dog in the house. Well, she fell in love with this one and she had a dog in the house. and was her best friend. He was always talking to him and everything, but yeah, Uncle Roscoe was, I remember him talking a lot about, you know, just trust in the Lord, basically, towards the end. I remember when he was talking to them.
Now, when you say Ma and Pa,
That would be Annie McIntosh and Robert Earl McIntosh. So that's who it was. That would be, they were sister and brother of Roscoe and Annie was.
I'm going to get ahead of myself. Marcy, do you know Roscoe? Well, I'm sure you do, but what were their middle names? I've got initials here.
That's what I wondered.
His middle name was Alexander, and I don't know where the E came
He's
from.
not right. I didn't think
Yeah,
so.
Okay.
No,
So no, that's not right. So it is an A. It's Alexander.
Yes.
Okay.
Alexander.
and my mother's name was Vera Beatrice Sears Williams.
Beatrice.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
She was the Sears.
Okay.
Yeah, when I saw that E, something didn't, it's like, I don't
Yeah.
remember no
That
E.
makes sense. I don't know that I just put this down from what I had online, so I might have to get on there and edit what's on our
Mhm.
Find a Grave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your line, Jeff, comes from the daughter, this youngest daughter.
Yes.
What was her name again?
Annie Williams.
Annie.
Well, married to McIntosh.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Joyce, you come into this by marriage, but how did you know these bunch? Did you relate with them much?
I didn't see Aunt Vera very much, but I did Uncle Roscoe. He would come over to Andy's a lot for dinner on Sundays, and me and Milton would go over there. And he liked to talk, just like Milton did. he was funny sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed their company, and I liked them.
Miss Nancy, did you know them?
Yeah, I've known them ever since I was small because they lived across the field from my aunt and uncle. I knew their names, but I never seen them until I got older.
Hmm.
And I always heard that Roscoe could make anything that you wanted. Like me, like my husband, make a card if you don't have it. And they was well thought of people. It was nice. And Vera, when she was in the nursing home, she was next door to my mother. So I got to see her and Roscoe and Steve often.
Oh, Marcy, I'll ask you direct questions. That way maybe it'll keep, because I know when you're talking about your parents, there's so much to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Was Roscoe just interested in vehicles, or was that something he was just good at?
He was good at it.
Okay.
He worked on tractors, he worked on cars. If someone brought him an old tractor that needed a part that you could not buy anymore, he could make it on a lathe. Make it just like the new ones.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so he always was interested in it, and Steve was interested in making stuff too.
Now the kids, there's how many of you all?
Two, Steve and me.
Steve and you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So with Vera, I know everybody has said, and I asked you this morning too, she's more of a homebody.
Yes.
What did she do for fun? What was she interested in?
She did some sewing, she did some canning until later years, and then she would have other people do the canning for her. When Steve and I were younger, we used to go to Elkton every Saturday to buy groceries, and then we would go to the movies there at the movie theater and see a Western. And then when Daddy got so busy, people coming all hours of the day and night to have him help them, we didn't get to go as much as we used to. She did not drive, so she stayed home more and took care of Steve and me.
This isn't part of this because they're not at our cemetery, but I expect that Roscoe must have learned his mechanicking from his father or somebody.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I know he worked at Chanute Airfield, and I've forgotten where that was, back during the war. And he worked on planes and things then.
Hmm.
So he must have had a natural ability for it.
That would have been the Second World War.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yes.
Now, I'm trying to piece together the story here. When do you and Stephen come in? Because Stephen is your older brother?
Yes.
Okay, so,
He was born in 1940. I
40.
was born in 1942.
okay. So, do you remember when they married? What year?
Okay, they were married over 60 years, so
Okay.
I would say about 1938 maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, at least. If they hit 60 years, because with Roscoe passing in 98. So, yeah.
But they were married in February of that year.
Did they ever tell you how they met?
No. Mm-mm. No. I know my dad had been married once before, but his wife passed away.
Oh,
And then he and my mom met, and they got married, so.
okay. Is there anything you'd like to say about your dad or your mom? Just something that...
I miss them both.
Did you spend more time with your mom or your dad?
Actually more with my mom because, like I said, she was always at home with us. She was there when we left for school in the morning, when we got home at work, after school, and everything, so.
Now, you're a very well-read person and a well-written person and a well-spoken person, and seems like even going back to school years, you were very astute. Did that come from Mom?
Yes. She loved for us to read, and she would help with the spelling and stuff when we had things at school. And when we lived in Elizabethtown, we went to school there for a year. And that's when we found out my brother was dyslexic. He would see words backwards. So he had a lot of trouble with reading. But he was good with his hands,
Yeah.
so.
Do you know if she had any education, your mother?
I don't know what grade in school she went.
That stuff always interests me because I think of, like my grandmother, she finished the 6th grade and that was it. She was a very well-read person, but no formal education really, not even high school. And so when I think about, your dad, that's why I'm asking, where did he learn mechanicking work? And then your mom, thinking that was so important for you, but some of that stuff really interests me. Where did these people get these, interests and their abilities? Just seems like back then, they just discovered it.
I think most of them did.
Yeah.
They found out what they were interested in, and that's what they pursued. Because my father could take a lathe and do all the measurements and things on it to make anything that he wanted. So, like I said, though, I don't know really where he found it.
Yeah. I have heard that. I think Gail Sears told me that if you had an engine block and you wanted it bored out to be a larger, maybe cube, whatever I don't know anything about
Yeah,
it.
for pistons and
yeah,
things. Yeah.
That he could actually rework a block and make it a larger engine
Yes.
or something along those lines. So,
Yes.
what did they look like?
Well, I don't know how to answer that.
Was your dad tall?
Fairly tall. I would say he's a little taller than Calvin is.
Okay.
He wasn't really tall. I guess what, about 5'10"? Yeah. And Mom was, I would say, about 5'5", maybe.
Okay.
Not quite that tall.
Yes, oh, she was a short little thing.
And yes, my grandfather was too.
But, yeah, he was.
Grandfather Sears was.
Who's
Yeah.
that?
My mother's father, he was barely maybe 5'1", if I'm lucky.
They were little.
Wow.
They were.
Did they,
You know Clarence Sears.
Mhm.
How tall was he?
I don't remember, I mean, I just remember him being short when I was a kid, that's all I remember. He
So,
wasn't very tall.
no, and neither was Mom, so, yeah.
did either of them have this white hair you have?
My grandfather did,
Yeah.
solid white, full head of hair. And I can never remember when he wasn't white-headed. I can't, so,
Talking about Mr. Clarence,
yes,
you remember the laugh he had?
yes.
I used to work in the field with him, but he worked for Ellis Boys,
Uh-huh,
worked in the field with him,
yeah, $1 a day.
yeah. That's the way he laughed.
Yes.
And you, I mean, you could say anything to him, but he would laugh. And a hard-working person.
Oh, yes,
Uh,
he was.
Us boys, there was 3 or 4 of us boys worked with the field with him, and he could always stay ahead of us chopping out tobacco.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
I know.
And I rode, he had a 53 Chevrolet car, and he said, I'll come by and pick you up, because I didn't have my driver's license, but it was, anyhow, he come by and pick me up. We went through the old Mount Sharon Crawford Road now. And I'd laugh at him, you know, I said, Mr. Clarence, ain't you gonna fix your trunk? And that old road wasn't blacktop then, but it's rough. And his hood would fly up. Then when he go down in the hill and hit a rut, the trunk would fly up and other than shut. And I said, Mr. Clarence, ain't you gonna fix that? I'll get it, he said.
Eventually,
But he was jolly to be around. He was just a big laugh.
yes.
We loved him. We picked at him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We would, remember 3 or 4 of us, 3 of us, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he was always stay way ahead of us. We'd kind of talk and chop along, but he worked.
Mm-hmm, I know.
And we would holler at him, you know, he couldn't hear us. And he said, yeah. And we'd slip, he had going this way, and we got right up behind him, just got chopping real fast, you know. And he stopped and looked at us, and he looked back where he thought we ought to be, you know. Then he looked back at us. He wondered how we got up there. But we skipped the pace wide of this room, probably. But we picked at him. But great to be around. He was. He was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Michael, did you know this couple?
Not that much, I mean, I remember Roscoe a little, but I don't remember Vera at all. And I don't really know why. I mean, it was just, I wasn't around them for some reason, and, you know, I knew who he was when I seen him and everything, but I just wasn't around him much.
Somebody, it might have been Jennifer, maybe Charlie or Genevieve one, but one of them mentioned this morning that Roscoe was a cook, that they knew him for cooking. Something like that. Okay, no. Marcy says no.
No.
But, okay. Somebody said that they thought he was good at cooking. I didn't know if there was
I
anything to
think
that.
he helped her as they got older.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he helped her, but he didn't do a lot of cooking.
Oh,
But
okay.
just cook like a woman, I don't think he did that, but he helped Vera.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he helped her a lot.
Okay. I like that, to cook like a woman. I'm gonna start using that. All right. Well, the next includes Roscoe and Vera's son, Ina Noreen, born of Patterson. Have I got that right? Okay. Ina Noreen, born of Patterson, Miss Williams, born 1935, died in 2003. The wife of Stephen Wayne Williams, born 1940 and died 2012. Now, Calvin, you've talked about Stephen quite a bit.
Yeah.
Kind of picking at him. Did you know him and his wife very
Yeah.
well?
Yeah, I knowed her before Steve ever married her. She was a Patterson. She went to Duxton Grove Church.
Mm.
My dad was pastor there, and they live right across the road in front of the church. And she had one sister I know, Kay was her name, but I think she had 2 or 3 more.
She had a total of 3.
Okay,
Judy, Kay, and Janice.
I remember, Kay.
Mm-hmm.
But Steve, like I done told you a lot about Steve. Steve was a mechanic, he went to Emerson too. Steve was, he called me a lot and talked to me a lot. He had good intelligence on vehicles. He could, like Uncle Roscoe. Uncle Roscoe, I guess, really trained him.
Mm-hmm. He did.
Both of them was good on, and he done, Uncle Roscoe done a lot of dye work too, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Making parts and stuff, you know.
Yes.
I remember Annie coming to church down here some. It was homecoming day, and we had can't remember the quartet, they had a quartet, and they had a great big bus.
Oh.
And they backed up and hit her car,
Oh, me.
and she got excited over that. So she, we visited Steve some when they was living in up there where Mr. Clarence used to live.
Mm-hmm.
We visited them some there. Good couple. They was made for each other.
Jeff, did you know them very well?
Yeah, I did, and as Calvin said, they were made for each other. When I found out Steve was engaged, I was happy to hear that, and they married, and she was sweet as she could be to him, and you could never see them apart. When they were together, they would never apart. And we was talking about who's the oldest of the siblings a while ago. It was my grandmother's the oldest, Annie.
Oh.
Uncle Leslie, Calvin's father, is the second. Uncle Roscoe, Marcy's father, was the third. And there was a 4th child that only lived for a year, Artie Virginia Williams. She lived less than a year, actually, I think.
And Annie was the oldest.
Mm-hmm. So what I got here,
Do they have her birth year on there?
1922, and Uncle Leslie was 1915, Uncle Roscoe was 1910, and 1908 with Artie Virginia.
Okay, so yeah, you got that backwards. You got his dyslexia. Because
Oh yeah, yeah, I did get Leslie.
yeah, yeah. So
Artie was the oldest then, and then Uncle Roscoe, and then Leslie, and I was reading up yet.
yeah,
It runs in the family. I'll tell you that.
yeah.
But yeah, Steve was great. Be around. He's always cutting up with Dad, and they was always having a party basically.
Mm. Now I've been told that they wed later in his life. That it was okay. Do you remember around when they would have gotten married? Anybody?
That I don't know.
No.
I would say it was in the 80s. I'd say because it couldn't be before 80 because I remember them getting married, and I thought I was away from here. To be honest, I wasn't at the wedding. So I want to say it was in the late 80s or early 90s. Probably in the early 90s.
Not that late.
Not that late.
I got married in 69. I would think it was in the 70s.
Mm.
I don't know how I would remember that then, because I remember them getting married, but I don't know if I remember them getting married in the 70s.
Mm.
I don't remember exactly when.
Okay.
I've got pictures of them when they got married.
Let's see if I can find it on here.
You probably can.
And I'll probably read it backwards.
I was gonna say he'll find it. It'll be backwards.
Backwards.
Miss Joyce, did you know them?
Yeah, Alan worked at the stone factory till they later off.
Oh.
And Steve was real jolly, and Marcy and Steve would come up and say milk when he was in the hospital. He was in the hospital 3 months.
Mm.
And I would stay up there with him all the time. But when he went to Evansville, I had to follow the ambulance, and I said, I'm gonna get a ticket because they're going so fast, but I don't know where I'm going. And then when I did get to where the hospital was, only time I moved is when they took him to another hospital, and I said, I hope I'm following the right ambulance. And then then they brought him back to the hospital he was in. And they'd come up and see him sometimes and
And
talk to him.
Madisonville.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Steve, I think he saved my life one time. We went up, you know, where your daddy worked on cars. And we went up there, was looking for something Milton wanted. That's where he got sick. And we was all looking, and I like to went through a hole. And I grabbed on Steve. You saved my life. But I liked them.
Mm.
They were nice.
Miss Nancy, did you know them very well?
Yes, I knew Kay, Ina's sister, better than I did Ina. I didn't learn Ina really till she started coming to Antioch. But Kay and Beverly, her husband was Beverly Houchins. I knew them real well. Their daughter practically lived at my house. Her and Veronica were buddies.
Oh.
Everywhere we went, she went with us. But I knew Kay and them real well, and they were really nice people.
Mm.
I certainly enjoyed seeing them. And of course, I thought the world was Steve. Everybody knew Steve. He's a good mechanic.
Yeah.
He was. And he was a well-behaved young man. I didn't know him till I started coming to Antioch.
Well, Marcy, he's 2 years your senior.
Mhm.
Did y'all go through school together? I know you
Part
wouldn't
of
have
it, part of it we did.
been.
Because of his
Dyslexia.
Yes.
Mhm.
He dropped out when he was about 16 years old and stayed and worked with Dad in the shop. So he was always working there. So,
That's probably not that abnormal in 1956. I mean, for somebody to go through the 10th grade, that wouldn't.
What time did Steve work at Emerson? What was he year?
That was before he married, wasn't it?
Yeah.
yeah, it was. And it was right after I got married. Daddy helped him get a job at Emerson, and he worked at Emerson for 20 years
Wow.
before he retired from Emerson. So,
For him, I guess the mechanicing work was kind of just, he learned it from your dad and he just came up in it. Once he got the job at Emerson, did he keep doing mechanic work?
he did some with Dad, but it wasn't on a regular basis. He was doing die things, they called them die or press things, and he did those. And he liked the job at Emerson, but he said a lot of the stuff was being transferred to Mexico, and they'd get back more in scrap than what they sent down there, because they weren't making it correctly.
Okay.
So,
Well, for Miss Anna, what did you know of her?
well, I didn't really get to know her until after they got married. And then I got to know Hector, and Anna was his daughter, and Hector was a cousin to my husband. So I got to know the whole family.
What was she like?
Sometimes she was really nice. She was. But she also smoked a lot, which I did not like.
She smoked cigarettes or a pipe?
Cigarettes.
Okay.
And that was the only thing I had against her. Because personally, I don't like to be around anyone that smokes, because you can always smell it in the clothes and everything, and it gets in your clothes too.
Right.
But it wasn't good for her health either. And that was one thing I objected to. So, but I never told her, because I figured that was between her and Steve. It wasn't any of my business really. But I thought she would have, you know, her health-wise, she would have been better off without the smoking. But I guess she was nervous sometimes and did that as a way to relieve tension and stuff.
I expect they never had any children.
No.
Did they live around here or in Russellville?
They lived here. They lived where my granddaddy Sears had a place. And I'm trying to think where else they lived. They stayed a lot with Mom and Dad too. But I really can't think. Do you know, Nancy?
I don't remember being anywhere but in your grandparents' house.
That's
in
the only
Antioch.
one I can
Yeah,
remember
that's the
too.
only one I can remember. And I can't remember what year my granddaddy died. But I know he left the place to Steve. So it may have been right after they got married or right before they got married that he passed away. So,
Thinking back to, you said that you two used to go into Elkton every Saturday and you'd see a movie. I don't know really how to word it. Was Stephen a cut up? I know Calvin says he'd pick at it. Of course, Calvin pick at anybody. But
well, that was when we were really young. I think I was 7 or 8, so Steve would have been about 10, so.
you were in town by yourselves.
No.
Okay.
Mom and Dad. They went shopping and they took us.
Gotcha. Okay. I was thinking that you two went into town.
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
it was the whole family.
Oh.
That's what we would do on Saturday, go grocery shopping and then we'd go to the movie. And
Oh.
it would usually be a Western.
Hmm.
And back then it was short reels. So you weren't gone very long.
Huh.
So,
Y'all didn't have any taboo about that? I know there was a time where movies, there was a taboo around going to the theater.
They
not
wouldn't show
in
him
the
no movies
40s.
like that.
Okay. Well, so to talk with Glenn Sears, for example, Glenn says that he wasn't allowed to go to the theater. And I asked him why, and he said, well, you know what people do in the dark. And so I,
No,
He
boy.
came on the wrong side of the road.
Now they walk.
okay.
and I don't remember the theaters actually being that dark back then.
I think they were dark. The best I remember that in Sharon Grove was.
Sharon Grove had a theater.
Yeah, you never been to the Sharon Grove Theater?
No.
Where have y'all been? You remember it?
What's that?
The theater at Sharon Grove?
No, I don't.
Well, I was about this tall probably. Do you know where Uncle Blanford's garage was? And then you go upstairs and was a room up there, and that's where the movie house was.
I didn't know it.
Oh,
I
yes,
didn't either.
that was where I saw my first movies.
Huh.
Oh,
I remember the pool room
I'm
being
glad
up
I
there.
thought of that.
I would think now that would be there. I didn't know anything about it, but I would think one to have there.
That's how I got my nickname.
The Sharon Grove used to be a boozy little
They
town.
call me Stick.
You know? I
Oh,
didn't
but
even
we
know
go
there
for a shoot
ever
pool a
was
lot.
one.
Johnny Bear was the
Yes.
one that,
Uh-huh. Oh,
Johnny
yeah.
Bear was the one that run that pool room.
I remember the pool.
You remember
room.
Johnny Bear?
No, but I remember the pool.
Johnny run it, you know, he said he'd been working in some kind of radiation stuff or something before it affected his mind.
Oh,
And he was always telling some old stories, us boys being there. He'd say microfilm set up and this vision and all this stuff, you know. He talked out of his head every once in a while. But the best thing I remember about him was had an old flathead 8 Packard car he had bought. And we got to picking at him about it, and of course, us boys raced around there, and we asked him said, how fast that old Packard run, Mr. Johnny? Said, it'll run 144 miles an hour. Oh, yeah? And I said, well, what does it do then? He looked at me real funny, dead serious. He said, it goes to lunging.
That's where I
I bet
That's
Man,
where I ate my
144, I don't know, Packard, I don't know what mile it was, but anyhow.
That's where I ate my
That's some of
first
Sharon Grove's old stuff.
for 10 cents.
And your first popsicle and your
My
first movie.
popsicle was 10 cents. I ate it there. Uncle Blackford brought me a popsicle.
Now, who was Uncle Blackford?
He was my uncle, Aunt Laurie Blackford Hester. He was my aunt Laureen's husband.
And he owned
No, he didn't. No, the Sanders, I think, owned the grocery then. Maybe the Sanders.
Could have been.
He drove a truck and he was a mechanic after he got out of the army. And he died when he was, what, early 30s, of a heart attack.
oh,
Uh-huh, yeah. He was a wonderful person. I loved him better than anybody, any of my uncles. I really, he was it.
mm,
He couldn't get rid of me when he came to the house.
well. Sorry for the rabbit trail. I'm interested in that stuff. There's a short movie on YouTube about Sharon Grove, and it was made in the late '90s, where they just went to, I guess it was the grocery. They just interview a bunch of old men sitting outside the grocery watching cars drive by on 106, and talking about what used to be in Sharon Grove, and so I'm interested in that stuff. Anything that you'd just like to say about Steve, Marcy, before we move on?
Well, I still miss him. I was here, I came back in 2007, so I was here the last 5 years. And he had sugar diabetes, and he also had cirrhosis of the liver from the diabetes. And the last time he was in the hospital, he wanted to come home, and he did. And hospice was called in, and they were there about 2 weeks before he passed away.
I always think it's better to go at home. Have
You
your
do
family
too.
around, be a little more comfortable.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's something good about that. Well, thank you for sharing all this. Michael, did you know Steve very well?
Some, I remember him being here at church and then I remember when they got married, but I couldn't told you what year it was. I mean, but they come here some, and it seemed like they might have went somewhere else to church some. I don't remember.
They went to Oak Grove, and they also went to Gupton's.
Okay. Well, I just remember, I didn't think they, went all the time here, but I do remember them coming to church here.
Alrighty, this next one. James Earl Williams, born 1942, died 2022. Calvin, did you know him?
No. I'm a little familiar with him. He's my oldest brother. Well, no, I'll take it back. He's older than I am. My oldest brother, but Billy Joe was his name. Dorothy Jean was the oldest, and Billy Joe, then James and me. Me and James growed up together. We done a lot of fighting over them hills down there. Swinging on grapevines or whatever. But we was farm boys. We raised up on the farm. We knowed everything about farm. Mom and Daddy told us really not to throw away anything. And it stuck to me this year when Carolyn fusses me all the time. Hey, you keep everything it is. I said, well, I'm born that way. And we, both of us became deacons at the same time. Michael Joe and Jimmy White all come deacons at the same time. James went in the service. He spent 4 years in the Air Force. And he come back home, and we have to take care of Mom and Dad, both of us. Good brother. We disagreed on a lot of things, but that's okay. I'll never forget, one time Daddy put us out there in the back field, and he told us he'd give us a quarter an hour to clean up the old farm he bought back there, and we took a hack, one of these old cross-cut saws. You ever seen one of them?
Mm-hmm.
Cross-cut saws and axe, and that's all we had. We didn't have a power saw. I never get long to live. We got to cut an old hickory tree back there. Of course, old cross-cut saw, pinch. You just couldn't drag it through there. And he jumped up, of course, he didn't want to work anyhow. He jumped up and said, "It's your fault." "No, it ain't my fault, it's saw pinched. I can't have it cause the saw pinched." "Yeah, it's your fault." Said, you done your part. We wonder, I just pinched. All we gotta do, James, is just drive a wedge in the other side and raise it up and we can saw on through. "No, it's your fault. We don't have to do none of that, it's exactly your fault." Well, I had about enough of that. I got up, I said, "Excuse me." He said, "What did you say it was?" He says, "It's yours." And I popped him right upside the head and I knocked him plumb down on the ground. I loaded on him. We fought around there about 15, 20 minutes. Got up, went back to sewing. But I remember the other things we get into it about loading deer. He'd take up to me in a minute. We get in a fight somewhere. He'd take up to me in a minute, and I would him too. But I remember Daddy one time told James to do something, he wouldn't do it. Anyhow, Daddy always whipped us with a belt. We pulled his belt out of his britches and whipped us. He grabbed James Earl and he started whipping him. Of course, James Earl, he'd fall down on the ground like he's dying, you know. And he just screaming, "Dear mercy." I never get along till I live, you know, and I love my brother. I mean, I'd take up for him in a minute. And I just don't, if I don't age at the back porch there, and there's a broom right there. I grabbed that broom and I went out that door, and I fixed to hit Daddy's what I fixed to do. Daddy turned around and seen me, you know, I done had to draw back. Turned around and seen me and said, "What are you fixing to do?" I said, "Nothing." But I remember that as the finest day, you know, but brother was good. I miss him really. He was good about taking care of Mom and Dad. So, he was great in the church. Jimmy was a good Sunday school teacher. He was good. He was a good deacon. Enjoyed the church here. Really concerned about everything that went on in the church. He would go up and talk to Dad a lot of times about problems, you know. But anyhow, he's a good person to be around. I remember one time, Dad, we used to go to, Dad take us, he'd go to the grocery store up there at Sharon Grove and get some stuff. And of course, we'd go with him. And Daddy'd always get us a nickel candy bar. You don't remember them, I don't imagine. He'd always get a nickel candy bar, get us a nickel candy bar a piece. And I get so mad at James Earl, I could just choke him. He guggled his down candy bar just as quick as he could. Then he'd go to crying to Daddy, wanting part of mine. And when we get home, Daddy got tired of hearing him cry and fuss. "Oh, go on, Calvin, give me part of your candy." Things that happened, you know, in childhood, you always remember them. I miss my brother, I do. I really do.
Did he farm like you when he grew up?
Yeah, he helped on the farm. After he went to the Air Force, he spent 4 years in the Air Force. He went to TVA, then he married all during this time. He married Evelyn she's from Georgia. Then we kind of went our separate ways, and then when Mom and Dad got disabled, and of course my brother moved back and got out of the service, and he retired from TVA when he was 54. But we sort of helped take care on the farm there, and when Daddy died, well, I just bought my brother's part out, the farm. He didn't want it. I couldn't get him to help me do nothing hardly. But, we just loved each other. We had a good family, really. Growed up poor, learned to be conservative. My brother, he used to, he would sit down, he worked at not carpenters, but built right. And he had I never did figure this one out. He had a little notebook he would keep, and every day that he would write down how much he spent and how much cash he had in that book. And he'd get it down to the penny. And if he didn't get it down to the penny, he got berserk. He just couldn't imagine what this money had went. But man, you mean to tell me you sitting there wearing over 2 or 3 pennies? Yeah, I just can't imagine where it went. I didn't see no point in that, never did. But he was pretty particular about how to spend. He wasn't spending nothing.
Not to change the subject, but have you heard how Evelyn's doing? I haven't heard anything about her.
The last I heard was back when she fell and broke, but she's doing fine.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Okay.
She gets a little text from the girls, and James's girls and my girls correspond back, and she's doing better. She got over that.
Is she at home by herself?
I think she's staying with 2 girls.
Okay.
One week, I think, one night. She does not stay at home,
Okay.
because she's got that, what is it?
Dementia.
Yeah.
I knew she'd had that, and I didn't know if she was with Tammy or Charlotte.
Both.
Both.
Yeah, she takes turns, I think. I don't know which one she is now, but,
Okay. Does Tammy still live in Paducah?
yeah.
Okay.
She's got a grandbaby now.
Yeah.
She a girl. Is a girl.
Yeah. Casey is in, Clifty Kirkmansville over in there.
That's what I thought.
You know where Charlotte lives. She lives on the Highland Lake Road.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was just wondering.
Evelyn does not stay at home.
Oh.
Nobody stays at that house.
Oh,
So,
my.
no.
All right, I was just wondering,
Last
because I
time I
hadn't
s-
heard anything.
Last time I seen her was at, I believe it was one of Kimberly's, it was Kimberly's daughter. Had a shower, I think is what it was, and she looked bad then. I did see her at James's funeral.
Right.
Yeah.
That's actually the last time I saw her, was at James's funeral.
Now, Jeff, James Earl would have been a deacon during the
Yes.
years when you were growing up here.
Yeah, I remember him. Well, him and Evelyn was always into the church and helping out the church no matter what. And Casey and Charlotte and Tammy, well, Casey and Charlotte Charlotte was about a little bit older than Casey, but it was me, Paul, and Casey's about the only boys beside Chad every once in a while, and that was it on the boys. The rest of them was all girls, but yeah, James Earl was really good. Back to the marriage date, I did learn it down. It's 11 of March 1983. He was 42 and she was 47. So that's when it was.
You're talking about when Steve was
Steve and I, that was it.
Okay.
I did find it, track it finally. But yes, they were wonderful people. Be here helping out the church all the time.
Mhm.
James and
James and Evan, yeah.
Miss Joyce, did you know him very well?
Yeah, I knew both of them. James's wife, Evelyn, helped a lot in 10 kids, and so did James. He would come and help too. And we really liked them. We had him when they left. I
Well-
don't get to see them very much.
Was it, I'd hate to say this on record, if it's a no, then that's fine, but was it, did they leave on good terms? Because by the time I became the pastor here, James Earl was already gone.
Yes, they
Okay.
left on good
Yeah.
terms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Casey, their son, was the music director at Shern Grove Baptist Church.
Okay.
And that's when they moved their membership, was
Okay.
to Shern Grove Baptist Church.
Charlotte played the piano here at the church.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah,
Good.
Tammy was also in Team Kidsville.
right, she also went, on a mission trip.
Yeah.
Where was it she went?
I don't
South
remember.
Korea?
I don't remember.
Tammy went on a mission trip, she said. Do you remember where she went?
Uh,
Korea,
South Korea.
I think so.
was she the one?
what
that
was
went-
it now?
Korea, yeah.
South Korea, was that where Tammy went on a
Yeah,
mission
yeah,
trip?
she-
South Korea?
Yeah, she
She was here at the
taught
church
2
when she
weeks
went.
over there.
Oh.
2
Language.
weeks, wow.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And Casey's wife, she was a school teacher. I don't know if she's retired or not.
Hmm. Well, I'll just ask, I know that Jimmy White was also a deacon, and he didn't leave on great terms. Not on his side, there was something else that happened that we won't go into, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that James Earl left for good reasons and on good standing. Because that was something I didn't know where he was attending or if he was. And so when I came in, somebody said he was a deacon here for a long time, but he didn't go here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt like that was somebody telling me, try to get him to come back, but he didn't ever seem like he felt like there was any animosity. He didn't act like there was any reason not to come back. He was just
No, there
Yeah.
wasn't.
No, there wasn't.
good.
I think one of the reasons he went to Sharon Grove Church, Casey, his boy, was,
Music leader up
of
there.
course, Evelyn liked it up there too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I guess keep them creating a family conflict.
Yeah. Miss Nancy, did you know him very well?
Oh, yes, I watched him grow up, watched him become a man, and he was really a good member. He loved the church, he wanted the best for the church, and he could really teach a class. I had him to help me when I was doing, for teen kids. I had to help somebody do a class, they weren't there, and he helped me with the Bible story. And he really did a good one, I was really proud, and the kids enjoyed it.
Mm.
He had those kids' attention the whole time,
Mm.
and not many people can do that. But yeah, I sure hated to see him leave.
Mm.
He was a big loss to our church.
Miss Marcy, you would have grown up with him. You were his same age, and being in the family, your cousins, right? So,
Right.
so did you guys go to school together?
I don't think we were in the same grade, but we both went to Sherman Grove, and then we went to Elkton. But I'm not sure we were in the same grade. He might have been a year ahead of me because of the months
Where
we were
birthdays were.
born in.
Gotcha. Well, how do you remember James Earl?
Well, I remember him being around Calvin, being here at church. Then I remembered when he joined the Air Force, and he was gone 4 years. And then he met Evelyn in Georgia, and they came back here. And I didn't really get to know much about them at that time, because he was working, and I'm not sure what Evelyn did. Did she work?
Yeah, she did at factory.
Oh, she did.
I can't remember where it was at.
I remember her working, but I think it was a factory, wasn't it?
I can't remember.
I don't
remember
know
which
either.
one. Yeah,
But-
she worked several years.
But I'd only see him on Sundays, so, and you really didn't have time to discuss anything with people on Sunday morning, if that's the only time you saw them.
Now, you say you remember him joining the Air Force. He must have missed, or maybe I'm wrong, he was 18 in 1960, so he would have just been after Korea, but a little bit early for Vietnam. So Calvin, do you remember if he served during a war, or was he in the Air Force during a time between wars?
He was in the Air Force during the Vietnam War.
Okay.
I can't think of that. Guatemala?
Okay.
The damn Air Force base there, I can't remember. Anyhow, he was airplane pilot mechanic, what he done when he was in the Air Force. They come in over there, them B-52s, and reload and go back over to Vietnam and dropping bombs over there. He worked there. And
All right. Michael, anything you remember specific about James Earl?
Not everything's been said, but he did teach, here for a long time. And I think, a lot of people really enjoyed that. And, that's about all I seen him was here at church. It was kind of, I worked with him just a little while at Carpenter's at Russellville, but, mainly it was here.
Mm-hmm.
I seen him, and he was really a good teacher.
The only times that I went to visit him, he had models. He liked to build models. Was it airplanes that he would build the models of? I thought so.
yeah,
He had a bunch of them. And I didn't put together that he was in the Air Force. Until
Guam Air Force Base.
Guam.
Yeah, I said Guatemala, it's Guam. It might be the same thing.
No,
Is it?
No.
Okay.
two different countries.
Yeah, that's Guam Air Force Base is where
Okay.
he was at, stationed. Yeah.
Alrighty, one more couple and then one individual and we'll be done. This next two, Miss Fanny Gladys, born in Maxwell, Fanny Gladys Willis, born 1903, died 1995, and her husband, Orville Victor Willis, 1897 to 1968. Now, Michael, we talked about these last week. Did you tell me that? Or are this two different people? Okay, we did the rights. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Fanny Gladys and Orville Victor. Did you know them, Calvin?
Yes, sir, I did. They lived right over here on
Antioch Road.
Antioch Road. Do you know where Matthew's house is?
Mm-hmm.
They had a house right across the road,
Hmm.
built right there. It ain't there now. But as far as I remember about them, they just going to church. He was a heavy-set guy. What I remember about her, she seemed like a real sweet person, always friendly. Part of, was that Roy Orlando's mom and daddy? Was? Okay. That's about what I remember. I remember one time that Mr. Clarence White and the deacons and some of us guys got together and went over there and built them a porch. Their porch is rotted out, and we went over there, all of us got together and went over and built the porch for them. I remember that. But as far as their family, I really didn't know that much about them, wasn't acquainted with their families, but I don't even know if they had any. Well, Roy Orlando was one. I don't know if they had any more or not. Dorothy, yeah, you're right. Dorothy Henderson.
Oh, these are her parents.
Yeah.
Her parents too.
Okay, I did not know that. Lordy, this goes back. The dates, I'm sitting here, because I knew Dorothy briefly, but she was very aged by the time I knew her, and talking about her parents. Wow. Man, people just don't leave. This area, people just stay for generations. That's crazy. Alrighty.
Let's put it like this, when we leave, we always come home.
Yeah. And finally, you never really leave.
I'm trying to find
Oh,
out.
yeah.
I don't remember. I was trying
I
to.
bet I remember about him, he combed his hair straight back over his head.
Well, I didn't know him because I wasn't born yet.
Yeah. Well, I know, yeah.
But her,
I thought maybe you pulling up their pictures.
No, I'm trying to find, but I couldn't find a picture. I can't even find the obituary. It's so old, I can't find it.
Yeah. Well, she outlived him by 30 years, but that doesn't mean he died young. He was 71, I might have that right. So, I mean, she was nearly 100 when she passed.
8 years of minus.
Yeah, so 92-ish. So, yeah, I mean, she just had a very long life. But,
If I knew, I don't remember. I'm sure if I see a picture, I might recall a little bit of memory, but But most of that year is about the time I start leaving from 93.
Okay. Did you know them, Miss Joyce?
I had seen her, but I can't remember her too good, but he had died before me and Milton got married, unless it was later on in 1968. We married in 1968,
Okay.
because I didn't know him.
All right.
But I remember seeing her and remember that it was Dorothy's mama. And she seemed like she's a real nice person. She'd talk to you and smile. She's real nice.
Miss Nancy, what did you know of these
Yeah,
two?
they were a nice couple. I never talked to him. He was real quiet. But was she a Sunday school teacher, the women's class
I
for
believe she
years?
was, yeah.
I think she was.
She was good in, helping in the food line too,
She
wasn't
sure was. She always
Yeah.
did her part of the work.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, she was really a sweet person.
Mm.
And she would get in there too.
He was he didn't say a whole lot, did he?
No, I never heard him say a word.
Not no more you'd ask him about it.
That's it, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Miss Marcy, did you know them at all?
No,
Okay.
not that I can recall.
Michael, you were a baby.
Well, I was 9 or 10 when he died, and I don't remember him, but now if you had a picture, I might remember, the face. But now I remember her, being here and doing things. And I do, remember that, and her, like you said, teaching and participating with the cooking and other things like that. But, I don't, if I knew him, it would be just, like I said, just a snapshot.
What did she go by?
Gladys.
Gladys.
Gladys. Okay. Last one for tonight. Roy L. Willis, born 1931, died 2001. Calvin, did you know Roy?
Yes, sir. Hayleen's husband, she used to be a piano player here.
Okay.
She lives in Clarksville now. She had 2 daughters. Remember him, he had a farm over next to me, over here on the Shortcut Road, him and Hayleen. And he was a carpenter, and he also farmed a little bit. He helped me build that barn there at the house. He always picked at him. A lot of times I'd be over there doing something on the farm. He'd stop and talk to me, and he was best of my recollection. He was the music director here, or something.
I thought he was too.
Maybe the assistant or something. I
She
can't.
played the piano, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was in the
Did
early
she teach a Sunday
70s.
school class, or was it a kids class?
She taught a kids
She
class.
taught a kids class.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did, but I don't know about him. But he had to be a music director in the the 70s, because I don't remember him at all being a music director.
I remember one time I was irrigating the backer over here, and I was done had the irrigating system set up. And he went by the gate over there 3 or 4 times. I left the gate open because I was going in and out in my truck. And he couldn't stand it no more because he was trying to figure out where I was at and what I was doing. So he wheels in there and he comes across there, and there's a pond out irrigating out of. The water soaked through the bank, and in the field there, it was real muddy. Water actually standing in places. And I come to the fence. I said, "Don't go no further, Orlando." I said, "There's water standing there, you get hung." Oh, I said, "I just put new mud tars on the back of this thing so it didn't go anywhere." I said, "Yeah, okay." So he just busted right out in that thing and got hung up right in the middle of it. And he come off old saying over there, "Is there any way you can pull me out?" I thought them mud tires was okay you had on the back of it. It's a 2-wheel drive truck. And I said, "Yeah, I'll pull you out." And I pulled him out backwards. But he was fun to be around, really. He tickled me. When he didn't want to do something, we'd be working on that barn over there. And he wanted to come over and work 2 or 3 hours. And he said, "Whoop, whoop, 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 whoop." And I said, "Did you hear that?" He said. I said, "Hear what?" He said, You didn't hear that? No, I didn't hear it. What are you talking about, Andy? Said, I heard Haleen calling. I heard Haleen, I didn't hear Haleen. Well, what it was, he was making excuses, he was gonna quit. You know, he said, I hear Haleen calling. Ain't no telling how many times he told me that, and I said, well, okay, whatever. Yeah. I picked at him all the time. He went off over here on some farm. Oh, it was Clifton Maxwell's farm. And he had a tendency to kind of drive across people's farms, you know. Just driving. He got hung up to every places. Anyhow, he got hung up down there and it was dark. Haylene was working second shift. And she come in, he wasn't there. Well, they got to looking for him. He was off over in Clifton Maxwell's barn. And nobody come by to pick him up. And they finally found him. He hung up over there. So they took him home. So you remember a lot of things about him. He was really, every time he come to over there not doing it, he talked about the church. You know, he really loved the church. And him and Haylene was, she was really dedicated. She was a good piano player. She was easy to get along with. Good worker. She was a hard worker. She was a real hard worker. Kind of on her, Rolando Haylene had some tobacco, and Rolando got sick or got hurt or something. Anyhow, the church decided we'd go over and cut the tobacco. And so Brother Ray Mullen, do you remember him? He said, well, guys, said, I don't know much about tobacco. I said, but I'll go over there with y'all and help what I can. I said, okay, come on. There's about 5 or 6 of us went over there. We was going, what we do, cut it, hand it to one another, and spike it, and just leave it on the stick and lean two together. They just out in the field. Well, Ray Mullins, you know, he wasn't no backer farmer. He wasn't nothing, you know. And he said, well, we're going to have to choose who we want to cut, who we want. And, well, Ray says, well, I'll help Haylene. And I thought, man, you made a mistake. You're hard working every one of us, man. You went out, you like to work Ray. He had blisters on his hands. We ragged Ray about it for a month or two. Come on, Ray, so let's take Haylene. You'll cut some butter. I ain't going to come back to back. But we did roll into it. He was good to be around him fun. I picked at him all the time. He liked it. So I miss them both. She's still living in Clarksville.
She's 90-something, isn't she?
Huh?
She's about 90-something.
Yeah, she's old. Yeah.
Yeah, must be.
She was
Yeah.
sweet.
So you knew both of these, Joyce?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, I didn't expect
I
you to.
don't remember him. I know Haylene. Yeah, she was a good piano player. She always, she helped out whenever I'm playing. When she wasn't here, Mom was the backup. Actually, I remember that time.
Playing piano.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could play piano,
No.
Joyce.
Don't be trying her now.
No, we'll set you up.
No.
I'm sure Linda would take time. She.
No. I done the best I could. That's all I could do.
Well, look at that. Learn something every day. But you knew them fairly well.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both really, really nice. I would come early sometime and they'd already be here. And she'd be practicing on the piano. And that was real nice.
Haylene was born in 1934.
So she'll be 91 now. Yeah.
September 30th, you have to remember that.
Yeah. Calvin was song later when I was trying to play. Ask him, he probably couldn't keep up with me.
Now you know why you can't hear now.
Jeff.
Haylene
That's
was
not
good. Haylene
nice.
was good.
Yes, she was. Yep.
Nancy, how well did you know Roy?
Yeah, I remember them real well. I really liked Haylene. She'd just get in there and help you. And she didn't mind putting money into her class for the children. And always do food. And, well, if we was cleaning, she'd just be doing anything, and I don't know about Roy Lindell. We was eating, I'm gonna tell a good one on him. One time we was eating, and, he was just scooping it in. He was, I guess he hadn't had anything, maybe he had worked all day, no food. He was just scooping it in, and Haley said, hand me them something up there. He said, get them yourself, I'm eating.
Oh, man.
I will never forget that. We all just looked at him. He just went right on scooping it in.
Rough day. Miss Marcy, did you know them?
I don't remember that much about them, so.
Michael, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember him being here a lot, and he was always interested in the music, and always wanted some way or another to improve it. You know, he was always looking for something, and he was one of the ones that I talked about, I don't know, a long time ago when we was talking about it, he was always trying to work with the youth, you know, to get them more interested in singing. And either, you know, try to get us to go to a class, you know, music class or anything, or just sing in the choir, and you know, he was always, you know, encouraging us to do that. He was really involved with that part of the church, you know, I remember that.
So I remember that conversation you're talking about where you were in like a youth choir or something, you and a couple boys.
Yeah,
So-
oh yeah, and he was trying to get us to sing bass. and he was encouraging us, and I mean, you know, we tried.
Couldn't get that low.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you all. We'll have one more to, next week, and that'll be it.